could stand.
Peter, ho! Hey!
Thank you. Good morning. You may be seated, please. Good morning. My name is Bill Herlock, and I have the privilege of serving as Deputy Mayor and First Ward Councilman for our beloved township of Montclair, and I'm glad to see so many of you out here this morning. As your Deputy Mayor, on behalf of my friend and colleague, Mayor Jackson, and my council, I want to welcome you all here this morning and thank you for coming out to our Memorial Day service 2017. The crowd may seem a little bit lighter than usual this morning because of the rain, but it has not dampened our spirit and our enthusiasm here for this ceremony today. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be here to participate in this austere ceremony to honor those who gave what Abraham Lincoln so eloquently termed the last full measure of devotion. As many of you know, Memorial Day is set aside to honor all those who perished in the service of our beloved country. Memorial Day was born out of the Civil War. It was officially proclaimed on May 5th, 1868, by General John Logan, National Commander of the Grand Army of the Republic. He wrote, "The 30th of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land." It was originally called Decoration Day. The date was specifically chosen because it wasn't the anniversary of any particular battle. Congress made it an official national holiday in 1971. It is right and proper that we honor all those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. At this point, I'd like to welcome Troop 12 from Montclair to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead.
Would everyone please put their right hand over their heart? Now can everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I'd like to invite Francis Duffy up to lead us in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad
Well done. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to invite Rabbi David Greenstein up for the invocation. Rabbi.
Chei ha'olamim, life of all worlds. On this day of remembrance, we recall the words of the prophet Isaiah, who beckoned us. Lift your eyes up high and see who has created all these. Calling out the forces, one by one, calling each one by name. Out of manifold strengths and courageous might, none are forgotten. Today we have assembled to honor those who have served our great country in the various branches of the armed forces, who have given their lives so that we may live in freedom. Freedom is a great gift, but so is the ability to remember. May we remember that our freedom, so seemingly liberating and empty of demands, carries with it a grave responsibility of remembrance and service. For our freedom has been purchased at the cost of the lives of our servicemen and women, whose valor and sacrifice show us that each of us possesses the potential for greatness. May we always show them our support and love. So let us join together through this shared time of memorial in humility and in gratitude for the continuing gifts bestowed upon us by our departed heroes and by those who carry their legacy forward. May our recollection of their devotion and sacrifice inspire us to find within ourselves well springs of courage and determination to realize the dreams these heroes died for. In their strength and valor, let none be forgotten. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Please be seated. Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and take a moment now to recognize all of the veterans who are here with us this morning. If you could please stand so that we can acknowledge you. From the bottom of our hearts, we truly thank you for your service to our country. I just want to take a moment now to introduce some of the various groups that are with us here this morning. We have the Crawford Crews, American Legion Post 251. Welcome. The Lieutenant Vincent J. Russo, American Legion Post 382. Disabled American Veterans, Daughters of the American Revolution, Eagle Rock Chapter. Private Harvey Post 2139, Veterans of Foreign Wars. The Montclair Red Cross, and of course the Montclair Community Band. Thank you all for being here this morning as part of our ceremony. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize some of the people who are here with us this morning. First off, my friend and colleague, Mayor Robert Jackson. Councilman Sean Spiller, Dr. Renee Baskerville, Councilman at Large Robert Russo, our manager, Mr. Timothy Stafford, our fire chief, Mr. John Herman, our police chief, Mr. Todd Conforti, our Deputy Police Chief, Mr. Wilhelm Young. I think I see our Director of Community Services back there, Mr. Wood. And of course, I'd also like to thank our head of our Department of Recreation, Ms. Breshka, who did a wonderful job putting this together this morning. called me first thing and told me we'd be inside, so she was on top of it. I think she had to rush back from the shore, actually, too, unexpectedly to help prepare this. So thank you, Pat. At this point, I was prepared to introduce our guest speaker, Jocelyn Gilman from the Northern New Jersey American Red Cross. Jocelyn is the executive director. If you look closely, I'm not Jocelyn. Jocelyn, unfortunately, her mother passed away unexpectedly and suddenly Saturday night, and she was on a flight to the UK to attend to her services. So I just want to say to Jocelyn, our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family. I will try to do justice to what she had to share with us this morning, but please bear with me, if you would. Jocelyn was going to speak about the contributions of the Red Cross and what they've done in the service for those in the service of our country. She gave me a little bit of history, and I tried to do the rest myself. So again, if you could bear with me. The idea of the Red Cross actually came about in 1859. An individual by the name of Henry Dunant, a young Swiss gentleman, who came upon a battlefield scene in Solferino, Italy, between the imperial armies of Austria and the Franco-Sardinian alliance. Approximately 40,000 men lay dead or dying on the battlefield, and many of the wounded lacked medical attention. Dunant organized the local citizens to bind the wounds of those soldiers and to feed and comfort them in their time of need. On his return home, he called for the creation of a National Relief Society to assist those wounded in war and initiated what would later become the Geneva Convention. The Red Cross was formally created in 1863 when 5 individuals from Geneva, including Dunant, established the International Committee for the Relief to the Wounded, what would later become known as the International Committee of the Red Cross. The organization's emblem was a red cross on a white background, what was the inverse of the Swiss flag. The following year, 12 nations adopted the first Geneva Convention, a milestone in the history of humanity, offering care for the wounded and defining medical services as, quote, neutral on the battlefield. The origins of the American Red Cross are interesting as well. Here in the United States, Clara Barton, who worked tirelessly for the sick and the wounded during the American Civil War and was known as the Angel of the Battlefield for her dedication, was instrumental in the founding of the American Red Cross. In 1865, President Abraham Lincoln commissioned Clara Barton to search for lost prisoners of war, and with the extensive record she had compiled, she succeeded in identifying thousands of the Union dead at what was the Andersonville prisoner of war camp in northern Georgia. In 1869, during her trip to Geneva, Switzerland, Barton was introduced to the organization and would eventually be invited to serve as the representative for the American branch of the Red Cross. Miss Barton was in Europe in 1870 when the Franco-Prussian War broke out, and she went behind the German lines to work for the International Red Cross. When Barton returned to the United States, she inaugurated a movement to gain recognition for the International Committee of the Red Cross by the United States government. In 1873, she began work on her project in earnest. In 1878, she met with President Rutherford B. Hayes, who expressed the opinion of most Americans at that time, which was that the United States would never, ever again face a calamity such as the Civil War. Fortunately, we knew that wasn't true in hindsight. Barton finally succeeded in garnering support for her cause during the administration of President Chester Arthur, justifying her cause that the new American Red Cross could respond to crises other than war, such as natural disasters, earthquakes, forest fires, and hurricanes. She became president of the organization, which held its first official meeting at her apartment on I Street in Washington, D.C. on May 21st, 1881. The American Red Cross received its first U.S. federal charter in 1900. Clara Barton headed the organization well into her 80s and was active within the organization until her death in 1912. With the outbreak of World War I in 1914, the organization experienced phenomenal growth. The number of local chapters jumped from 107 in 1914 to 3,864 in 1918. Membership grew from 17,000 to over 20 million adult and 11 million junior Red Cross members. The public contributed 400 million in funds and material to support Red Cross programs, including those for American and Allied forces and civilian refugees. The Red Cross staffed hospitals and ambulance companies and recruited 20,000 registered nurses to serve the military. Many additional Red Cross nurses came forward to combat the worldwide influenza epidemic of 1918. During the Second World War, the Red Cross provided extensive services once again to the United States military, Allied forces, and civilian war victims. The Red Cross enrolled more than 104,000 nurses for military service, prepared 27 million packages for American and Allied prisoners of war, and shipped over 300,000 tons of supplies overseas. America turned to the Red Cross to develop a supply of life-saving blood on a massive scale. This led to the establishment of the American Red Cross Blood Donor Service, which collected 13.3 million pints of blood plasma for use by our forces in World War II. The Red Cross continued to provide these services to members of the armed forces and their families during the Korean, Vietnam, and two Gulf Wars. After the war, the Red Cross introduced the first nationwide civilian blood program. Today, each year, the Red Cross collects approximately 5.3 million units of blood from roughly 3.1 million donors nationwide and distributes over 7.7 million blood products for transfusion. The American Red Cross has 5 main critical service areas: support of military and their families, disaster relief, blood collection and distribution, health and safety education and training, and international relief development. Here in Montclair, we have always, since its inception, been active in the Red Cross. The people of Montclair organized a relief committee on July 29, 1898, at 33 Plymouth Street. The committee, led by Miss Benjamin Strong, raised considerable funds and provisions to provide pajamas, clothes, books, magazines, jams, jellies, tobacco for those being treated at the then Mountainside Hospital during what was the Spanish-American War. Montclair as a community was extremely active during World War I. There is a report of a Major William Dodd, who was a Red Cross delegate to Palestine during World War I, reporting on massacres that had been perpetrated during the war in an effort to bring attention to them and eventually stop those events from occurring in the future. Montclair citizens were also active in the Red Cross during World War II as well. The current building at 63 Park Street, just behind us here, has housed the Red Cross in our community since the 1940s. As we commemorate this Memorial Day, please remember all that the Red Cross has done and continues to do for the members of our armed forces here and abroad. Thank you. Please stand. I'd now like to invite Reverend John Rogers to come up for the blessing of the wreaths.
You may remain standing, and please direct your attention to the wreath behind me and direct your hearts so that we might bless it together. Loving Creator, breath of life, divine presence within us and around us, we bless this wreath today in honor of every person who gave his or her life in sacrifice for this country. May we keep our minds on their sacrifice so that we can always remember the value of every human soul. May we keep their bravery in our hearts so that the fight for freedom for all can continue within us. And may we keep their names on our lips so that we remember that every human being is unique, is beloved, and is worthy of life. On this Memorial Day 2017, we are connected to all those who came before us. May we bless this wreath in the knowledge that the cost of war is too great. So may we restore peace within us. May we restore peace in this land. And may we restore peace all over this world. Please join me in saying amen.
We all want to face out the window here. The honor guard will now have the firing of the salute. I now would like to invite Rabbi David Greenstein to come up for our benediction.
May the solemn memory of all our men and women who have fallen in the service of defending our country and of protecting the cause of freedom and humanity become a source of blessing for us all. For their sakes, for our own, and for the sake of our children, may we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world. Then nation will not threaten nation, and humanity will not again know war. For all who live on earth shall realize that we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love. May the powerful leaders of all nations be blessed with the power of compassion. Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you. I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war. So let love and justice flow like a mighty stream, and let peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. And let us say, Amen.
On behalf of Mayor Jackson and the Montclair Town Council, I want to thank all of you for coming out here this morning to honor all those who have given the ultimate sacrifice to our country. Please keep that in mind today as we go forth the rest of the day. Okay. I've just been given an instruction. I apologize. I didn't know. Assemblyman Tom Giblin is here, and we want to welcome him this morning and thank him once again for being part of our service. What? I'm getting a lot of instructions here. I didn't forget, I promise. This morning we are honored that photographer David Stahl is here, and he is going to be doing the portraits for veterans today here at Town Hall, free of charge, to thank you all for your service. I hope that you'll take advantage of that great opportunity. And again, thank you all for coming out this morning.